This is the story about the old mine and town of Swansea, Arizona. This old mine is out in the middle of nowhere, about 25 miles east of Parker. It was back in 1862 that prospectors traveled through this area, but it wasn't until 1886 that miners found silver and lead. However, after a short while of mining, the silver ran out and the miners really had no interest in digging copper, so they packed up and left. The other negative issue about this property was that it was out in the middle of nowhere. Even today, this mine site is well over an hour away from the nearest town of Parker, so you can imagine what it was like 100 years ago. Then, in 1904, the Arizona and California Railroad was building a rail line from Wickenburg to Parker. A couple of the old miners, Newton Evans and Thomas Kerrigan, saw this rail line as an opportunity to develop the copper deposits out at Swansea, so they started contacting potential investors to maybe get some money to fund a mine. Later that year, they had some investors lined up and purchased the claims and started to develop this copper deposit. The rail company agreed to run a line to the mine site so copper concentrates could be shipped out. These two miners then set up the Clara Consolidated Gold and Copper Mining Company, and this company built the mines in town. Once word got out about this new mine, people started to move in and this place took off like a rocket. In just 4 short years, by the end of 1908, there was a 350-ton capacity furnace built for smelting, a 3.5-mile water line built that ran to the Bill Williams River, and there were hoists in place for 5 different mine shafts. In case I forget, I'd like to point out that some of these shafts eventually went down 1,000 feet. At first, this town was called Signal, but the name was changed because the copper that was mined here was sent to a place called Swansea, which was over in South Wales. This copper ended up halfway around the world by a combination of railroads, the Colorado River, and shipped from the Gulf of California around Cape Horn all the way to the United Kingdom. By 1909, Swansea had a post office, and the first train rolled into town in 1910. It is said that there were between 500 and 700 residents. The town had a saloon, a general store, a small dairy barn, a hospital, a school, a newspaper, and even had a car garage. Considering this was the early 1900s, this place was ultra-modern. Everything here was either electric or steam-powered. The town also had indoor plumbing and electricity, which were luxuries that most of the country did not have during that time. The mine had 2 steam-powered generators that ran the mine in the town. It is said that this operation used 40,000 gallons of water a day. Coal was used for power and was hauled in on the rail cars, and the concentrates were then railed out. Because the ground that was being mined consisted of a powdery oxide iron, timbers had to be used everywhere underground. All these timbers had to be railed in because there was nothing for trees anywhere near this mine. In May of 1910, the first batch of copper was poured at a rate of 50 tons per 24 hours. Relating to copper prices at that time, the mine was bringing in $15,000 per day. Unfortunately, that wasn't nearly enough money even back then to keep things going. The company had overextended itself in getting things built up, and just as they were starting to pour copper, the prices just weren't good enough, and the company filed for bankruptcy. However, a short time later, the American Smelting and Refining Company bought the mine and town and things got going again. The company put some money into some new equipment and made a number of improvements along with rebuilding the concentrator. However, it didn't last long, as the Great Depression was just around the corner, and that put a damper on copper prices and the mine shut down. From that time on, very little mining took place and people started to move on, and by 1937 Swansea became a ghost town, although some small operations of mining did continue until 1949. Although this copper boom was short-lived, it is said that the mines processed over 27 million pounds of copper between 1904 and 1943. You can still go out to this old mine today. Once there, you will see the old bunkhouses that the miners lived in, as well as a lot of waste dumps and old foundations and some remnants of old buildings. The mine shafts are still there, although they have been covered over with steel grating. You can still take a look down there. I hope you enjoyed this short story about the old Swansea mine. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you more old lost mine stories.